doing risky things. I'd like to tell you a story about my 3-year-old son. He's always very cautious and sometimes way too cautious. He'd been talking about rockets for a very long time. So last Christmas, my brother, being the best uncle, decided to buy him a set of rockets that could be shot outwards by stepping on the launcher with your foot. And I mean, how cool is that? We were all so excited to show him, and as expected, he loved it, except he did not want to play with it. He was so cautious that he would not touch it. The root of that was that he was afraid of not having control over the rockets. Have you ever experienced anything like that? You know you're called to do something, start something, but the very thought of having to step out of your comfort zone and into this new things just scares you? You're afraid of commitment, afraid of losing control. We've just gone through a whole 2 years and a bit of not having control over things. We all know the feeling. Today, I want us to specifically explore life transitions that are good for you and others, but are risky and scary. Sometimes, we as humans by nature assume that scary things are not good for us. That's the desire to keep our life under control. And that's not necessarily bad. We were designed that way. Our brain is partly designed to keep us out of trouble. One of my favorite Bible verses is John 3:8. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. The space between following the Spirit and foolishness is a very, very thin line, almost invisible at times. But I'd rather risk looking foolish in the eyes of the world than not following and obeying the calling of God in my life. When we think of today's culture and how isolated we've become from God, how disconnected from each other, how distracted we are, I just can't help but wonder, what would it take to live a life of fullness? What would it take to be liberated from fear? You know, it will take stepping into scary, foolish, big things for the sake of the gospel. It will take Paul's encouraging Timothy's. You know, Paul in a letter to Timothy said, "For God did not give you a spirit of fear or timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind." And I really believe that we are at the tipping point of a great move of the Spirit in our nation. The Spirit is moving, and He's calling you to step into new and maybe scary, borderline risky things that look foolish to the eyes of the world. I have a friend who always says to me, "Dory, you are into risky business." And I am. The calling of God that He has placed in me is worth every second of my life. And so are you. You are called, you have a purpose, and you are only a step away from living bound to fear to living into the fullness of God. You were created to worship God and to lead others into worship with you. So what does this mean to you? What does this message mean for you today? The answer is, it will look different for each of you. Here's what I have to offer. At some point today, take some time to just pray and meditate on scripture, following these steps. Number 1, pick one of these verses, 1 Timothy 4:12 or John 3:8. Read it 3 times with some silence and stillness in between. Notice what the Spirit might be saying to you. Then close with a prayer of commitment. It could be something like, "Lord, let it be unto me as you wish." Or, "Lord, your kingdom come, your will be done." Or, "Lord, heaven on earth through me."